Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are going to get our meeting started. Becky, would you please start us with a prayer?
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather here this evening. And prayers for those who wanted to be here that could not make it. We ask that you fill us with your grace, and also please watch over the J6ers and President Trump, because we need that situation taken care of. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mark, would you start us with
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you very much. Elected officials, we have Ina, who is going to be our speaker, so we'll wait to introduce her. Jenny Dorsey, would you please?
Excuse me, Judge? Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny. I'm back. County Attorney, really hoping for your vote. When I'm the only name on the ballot, please check it off. No other vote. Okay. Anyway, nice to see you guys. It's good to be back.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Oh, stood a little too close to that. Caitlin Paxson, thank you guys for coming tonight. It's always important to support our candidates, whether they're incumbents, whether they're new candidates. So coming out and supporting our conservative candidates, thank you for doing that. It's great to see everybody again. I will be on your ballot in 2024 for City Council. You guys know I'm very passionate about conservative values, patriot values, so I would really appreciate your support. So, Caitlin Paxson. Thank you. As Suzanne reminds me, I am also a current appointee to the Fire Commission for ESD2.
Evening, Jimmy Granberry, your district attorney. Glad to be here. And it's always a pleasure to be here with Jenny Dorsey, my lawyer, and of course the great Ina Klein and her husband, the great David Klein. It's great coming to turn in, and all the other wonderful electeds. It's a pleasure to be here. Y'all have a great night, and Nina's going to fill us full of knowledge we did not have heretofore.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Klein. I'm the presiding judge of the 148th District Court. I'm not up for election this time. I'm just here to support my wife. So nice to be here, and thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Any other candidate now that is not an elected official or in position? Nope, not tonight. New attendees. Do we have some new attendees? Would you please say a few words, introduce yourself?
My name is Mark Borgeson. This is my wife, Yolanda. We just moved here from Southern California about 7 months ago. I heard some grumbling there. I know, you've seen enough of us, I'm sure. I know Suzanne a little bit and Becky a little bit, and a friend of ours, Steve and Kim, aren't here this week. They were here last week, but yeah, excited to be here and see what's going on. And I just retired law enforcement for 25 years, Southern California, and look forward to being a part of what's going on out here. So, thank you.
Anyone I missed? Nope. Very good. So I was going to add to our normal start maybe an update on Eagle Pass, that Annie was there and will give us a little update on what happened last week at Eagle Pass.
Hi, I'm Annie Hopeful, and I'm not running for anything. And I do want to welcome my Southern California people because that's where I was originally from, and we're glad you're conservative because those are the Californians we want. The rest, anyways. I went to Eagle Pass last weekend for the big trucker convoy down there. There was a lot of trucks and a lot of people. They were expecting it was going to be another J6 possibility. There was some people that I believe were setups outside where the rally was going to be that kind of looked like Proud Boy types and had some flags with some very bad sayings and stuff that, you know, talking about homos and just stuff. And we were told when we went inside that this group existed out there, and we were asked by the organizers to just ignore them, that they were there and that they wanted to create a situation and get us to take pictures and go over there and get our pictures taken with them. And then that would be the narrative, that we're all a bunch of, you know, right-wing crazies. So everyone pretty much ignored them. And so we had a beautiful rally, pretty good turnout. There was a lot. I think it would have been a lot crowded, but I think because of the narrative on the television and other social media things, they kind of scared some people off from going, which is very unfortunate because then they win. But there was a nice turnout. A lot of Canadians came down, which was really cool to talk to them, and they were very supportive. And anyway, we went from there to over to the Eagle Pass area, and I spoke to some officers there, and they were saying how much of a decline from just like a month ago as to now. And we actually saw no migrants coming across at all. We did see the barbed wire, the National Guard. They're doing a great job. We talked to some Border Patrol people. We were asking them, what is your job now? And they said, we were told just to drive around and observe, but we're not to make any arrests or to do anything. So they're basically getting paid for doing nothing, but that's another subject. So after talking to them, and we were by the wall, a local stopped just to thank us and to thank us for bringing media attention and to get down there because they're very, very frustrated, and they said they're scared to speak out because their little town, most of them work for the government. And so they're afraid to speak out because they'll lose their jobs if they start, you know, complaining too much. So, but they were secretly telling us, thank you for being here, and, you know, how supportive they are of Governor Abbott's move. So yeah, it's working. The next day, of course, I went down on Saturday. Next day was Sunday when the governors went down there, and I heard there was a little more action and things that took place. So it was amazing how calm it was on Saturday, and when they knew the news media was going to be there, that all of a sudden here comes Antifa and the big, you know, hoopla. So it's all for show. But yeah, so that's the update. Thanks.
Any questions? For all of us who were not there, any questions? Nope. Thank you, Annie. Thank you for representing us so well. So, update. As you know, we are now less than 2 weeks away from early voting, so we don't have much time to lose. We have a lot of work still to do. We need a lot of help in our headquarters. Anybody who has 1 hour here or there to spare, please come and help us. Right now we are working on our 5,000 bags. We have maybe done 2,000 or a little bit more, but we still have a lot to do. We put in them our voter guide and the literature of our candidates. So anyone who can come and help, please do. And that's only the first step. Second step, with those 5,000 bags, we need to block walk them. We have 5,000 houses on the island, and we are doing those first, and then we'll extend to Flower Bluff and the rest of the county. So please come and help. Please come and take some bags, 50, 100, to do your street, the next street. We have a log in the office so that we can write down whatever streets you are doing so that we don't duplicate the effort and we make sure to cover every single street. So please come and help. And in 2 weeks, we'll start the next part of our work, which we'll be distributing at the polling places. On the island, we have one, so there we need, but that is going to last almost 2 weeks, from February 20th to March 1st. So 10 days. So we need people at least at the 3 peak times of the day, early morning from 7 to 9, then 11 to 1, and then 4, 5 to 7. So every day we need some shift to cover those, one shift on the island, and if we can, if you live near any school, any area where there is a voting place, where we would like you to help distribute the voter guides there. So those are the most important things we need right now. And of course, we always need money. I'm the beggar in chief, everybody knows that. So, as you know, campaigns cost a lot of money. Our candidates know that. And we campaign for them in a different way, but that's what we do. So all help is welcome. So, as you have seen, we have the Trump sign that we did. Nobody has any Trump sign in the county, so we printed them ourselves. We sell them, and part goes to paying for our cost, and the other as a fundraiser to finance the rest of our activities. We also have our new t-shirt, the one I'm wearing, so those are 20, whatever your size. We try to make it easy, $20 for any size of t-shirt. What else? So on your tables, you still have a few of our form, either to join us or on the back to volunteer. Please fill them up. We have much more of those on the front table by the exit door, and all help is needed, and it helps us to know what kind of thing you want to help. Some like to walk, some like to be indoor, so please tell us how you can help. Upcoming events. Next week we have our congressional candidate forum. So we have 4 candidates running for the CD27, the incumbent Michael Cloud, and 3 challengers, Chris Mapp, Luis Espinola, and Scott Mandel. The 3 challengers will be here. They have confirmed next week. For Michael Cloud, depending on his schedule, if he can be here, he will be here. And if not, he will be with us either by Zoom or at least through a video. So that's next week. The week after, we have candidates that we never see down here in Corpus Christi that are at the higher state level courts. We have the Court of Appeal and the Texas Supreme Court. So we have at least 3 of the representatives for the Court of Appeal, and I'm waiting confirmation for the Texas Supreme Court. So that will be the end of our candidate forum. In the meantime, we've told already, we have a dinner fundraiser set up by the Republican Party for Ted Cruz. If you're interested, I hope you got your tickets already, because they're pretty much gone. So please make sure if you are interested. There might be a few individual seats left, but that's it. Everything else is completely sold out, which is a good thing. So that's pretty much it for our upcoming event. So, few updates on things going on. You've heard, I'm sure, that the RNC is complaining that they are broke, and it's true, they are pretty down on money. By the end of 2023, they had $8 million cash on hand, while the Democrats had 21 million on hand. So that's not a very good ratio. But then when you look back in 2015, so before the Trump era, the RNC at the time, similar time, just before presidential election, had 18.7 million in cash. So that's more than the double of what they have right now. In 2019, before the 2020 election, after the Trump years, they had 71 million cash on hand. So you can see something happened, and it's pretty bad. Why is it bad? I was the first to always say, I'm not going to send any money to the RNC because they don't do with my money what I want to do. They don't support the right candidate. They waste my money. I found out since then that there is one reason for which this is truly pretty bad, is on national advertising. The RNC has, per the law, that's in the election rules, special rates that are the lowest advertising rate for all the advertising for all the candidates. So when they do advertising for all the candidates nationwide, I mean even individual, they get the lowest rate. When the candidates to whom I send directly my money do the advertising, they pay much more. Therefore, there's much less Republican advertising on the airwaves. So that's true, a very important factor to know. So what should you do? I've been telling all along, let's wait that we have a change in leadership. It looks like it's happening right now. It looks like Ronna McDaniel did resign under some pressure yesterday. So I think it's going to be time to give them a hand and make sure that our Republican candidates are well supported as the general election comes. So what about the candidates? I'm sure you heard that former President Trump has spent more than $60 million in donor funds on legal costs last year. Personally, I think that's a good thing. I think he had to defend himself against all the harassment, and I'm sure that 90% of the donors to Donald Trump campaigns agree with that use, because if he didn't do that, he could not be our candidate anymore. We know that. So by now he would be in jail. So it is what it is. So chaplains in school, we talked about it. It's slowly progressing. Anybody, again, who can do any pressure on CCISD to have the chaplains be, please do it. As you know, the deadline is at the end of the month for them to make a decision, and they are against it. Flower Bluff has done all the preliminary votes in favor of it. They still have, from what I noticed when I read what they are proposing to vote, a strange restriction on chaplains being able to counsel the students, because they said that the students are being counseled by district staff and professionals that had been hired by the district. I don't think that's good enough. It's very important to remove that restriction, because that is one of the areas where the chaplains are more needed. They are not only needed to lead students in prayer, they are needed for counseling. So I think it's important to make sure that this is removed. Sorry. So, I'm sure that you have followed the Mayorkas impeachment debacle yesterday or 2 days ago. We had 3 Republican congressmen who voted against the impeachment with all kinds of reasons. You can always find arguments. If you want to argue on things, you will always find something, a wording, a clause that you don't agree with. When we have essential things that we have to decide on, I think we need unity, whether we like every single word that has been used. So it is really very regrettable that those 3 made it fair. So because the fourth one at the last minute decided not to vote no, it will come back to the table and it will be revisited. But in the meantime, it was a pretty bad day for the Republican and for the Republican speaker. So right now they are working on the border security bill. It passed the Senate. It's a disaster. It's open border forever, codified. And as Mike Lee said, you can score only so many points for the other team before losing your status as team captain. That was against McConnell. As you know, McConnell, once he passed it, he said, oh, I think that was wrong. I think we should revisit that. But it was too late because it was already voted. So this is especially true when you routinely use your position to undermine your teammates and punish anyone who disagrees with you to the point that they don't trust you. To which Elon Musk replied, time for Mitch to go. So there's an online public petition that I would like you all to sign asking Mitch McConnell to resign. So again, that will be posted on our website, but if not, you can take a picture and please do, it's on change.org, please do sign that petition. So Ted Cruz added to this that the condemned the provision to force all lawsuits now that will happen about the border to go through the DC court is terrible, and that is something that needs to be blocked, because that means that forever nothing will be able to ever close the border. It will be totally in the books and done forever. So that's a small list of the top Senate rhinos. They're pretty bad. They've been there for many forever, and all those really need to go. So keep that list in mind. Make sure when they run to send me money to their challengers, because we need a big cleanup in the US Senate. I think that's about it for me. That's a reminder of the election dates and what comes after. Precinct and SD convention locally will be on March 9 and March 23rd. I hope that everybody who comes to our meeting will be a delegate to our precinct convention and Senate district convention, and willing to go to state convention. State convention will be in San Antonio. It's always a very educational and fun event. It's the biggest political convention, in fact, in the United States and therefore in the world. And if you've never been there, you need to go. If you've already been there, you know you need to go back. So, and then in July, we will have the RNC convention where will happen the nomination of the presidential candidate, and that's going to be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They have not announced exactly the date yet. And I think that's pretty much it for me. And I would like to give the microphone to our speaker today, Judge Ina Klein, our favorite judge, as you know. So we're not biased, you know, we just say it as it is.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm really excited to see both the faces I have seen, earlier today, and some faces I've never seen before. For the ones that I haven't met before, I'm Ina Klein. I'm one of the 8 district court judges here in Corpus Christi. I am originally from, I know several of us here are kind of refugees from either nationally or internationally. I think I'm a refugee twice. So first, my family immigrated from Russia, back then Soviet Union, when I was 14, back when Soviet Union was still Soviet Union. And then when I was already an adult, after graduating from law school, I immigrated again from the Northeast, from Massachusetts to Texas. So just like some people here from California or elsewhere, you know, we weren't born in Texas, but we eventually found it. So a little bit about my professional background. I graduated from law school in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. After practicing there for about 2 years, I moved to Texas. Had to take the bar exam all over again because we know that nothing north of Virginia is adequate, right? So took the bar exam again and then went to work here in Corpus Christi for the district attorney's office. Back then it was Carlos Valdez, and I spent 6 years in that office prosecuting all kinds of crimes. Starting with misdemeanors and going all the way to capital murders. So one of the first people that actually took me under his fatherly wing is that man over there, Mr. Granbury. So sometimes he takes credit for me, sometimes he doesn't. So I took a special interest at some point in the DA's office in the domestic violence crimes, which back then the juries were really kind of turning their faces away from the domestic violence crimes because those things belonged at home. They don't now, and I'm glad to see this. So after about 6 years in the district attorney's office, I was appointed as a municipal court judge for the city of Corpus Christi. And one of my primary responsibilities was the juvenile caseload for the city. Now, when I was a prosecutor, I never did juvenile crimes. And so then I went from prosecuting capital murders to to presiding over curfew ordinance violations for the juveniles. And I remember looking at those cases going, what in the world am I going to do with the curfew ordinance violations? And frankly, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know we had a curfew ordinance. But thankfully for my kids, I learned that. So the first case that I remember that came in front of me, and without giving the details, it was a 12-year-old young man. And he received a curfew ordinance citation, and his mom, who was really young, like way younger than I was next to him. And I remember we addressed his case, and we were placing him on conditions for 3 or 4 months, and everything was going great until we got to the part where he had to be home by 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. And he said, every day? And I said, every day. He said, what about the weekends? And I said, a weekend is a day, so every day. And he said, well, how am I going to go see my baby? And I said, what do you mean by a baby? And he said, well, my girlfriend is due. And I said, do what? We were just not meshing. And so finally he understood that he's going to have to speak louder and slower to me. So he broke it down to me that his girlfriend was pregnant and about to have a baby, but I shouldn't worry. That's what he told me, because she's an older girl. And I said, well, how much older? Well, she's 14. Okay. So basically he was out after 11 o'clock at night. He's about to become a father. He is in 6th grade and he can barely read. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not made for this. I need my capital murders back. So I remember calling the head of the committee, judicial committee that appointed me to be a municipal court judge the next day and telling her, I think you've made a mistake. And she said, just give me 6 months, and if at the end of the 6 months it's still not working out, you can go and prosecute your capital murders. And so I said, okay, I can do 6 months. And so kind of fast forward, one day that young man comes back without his mother, and we talk about how well he's doing, and it comes out that the reason why he was out past the curfew was because his mother had a drug dealing business, and what safer option than to have your 12-year-old delivering? So, all right, so the 3.5 years that I spent as a juvenile case judge have taught me more than I could tell in hours. What it also taught me is that my kids are not allowed to do anything. And so that's what they would tell, that with every case that I presided, they were not allowed to do something else. So while I was in the municipal court, I started doing jury trials. Did you all know that you can have a jury trial for a speeding ticket? I didn't. But also, to be honest, I didn't know where the municipal court was. My husband told me. So my first day on the job, I found the municipal court. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you I have no sense of direction. So if anybody's going to ask for directions, don't ask me. So one of the things about me is my family was persecuted in Russia primarily because they were Jews. And anti-Semitism in Russia is terrible, has always been terrible. But where I was going with this is at some point after I won my election in 2016, my husband, our kids, and my mother went to Israel. And it's not a very big country. It's a small country. And so my husband and I are talking, and he interrupts and says, you know, I'm really confused. You know how for 40 years the Jews were wandering? And I said, yes. He said, it's a really small country. I mean, at some point, somebody must have said, hey, we've been here before. So I don't know if I have a Jewish sense of direction, but, you know, it comes up quite a bit. So anyway, so after about 2 years of being on the bench, a lot of people started coming to me and telling about the problems we were having in the court where I am now, and about the judicial temperament and about things they were experiencing. And I was asking those people, the lawyers primarily, well, if it's so bad, why don't you all run for that court and off-seat the presiding judge? And they were all saying, are you kidding me? If we lose, we'll never practice here again. You know, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be terrible. And so I remember telling this to my mom. I was sharing it with my mom one day and another day and another day. And then one day, my mom said, you know what? I'm really tired of you complaining. If you're going to do something about it, then you should run. And if you're not going to do about it, stop talking about it. And she hung up on me. And so I remember talking to my husband about it afterwards, and he said, so why aren't you running? And I remember I couldn't come up with an answer. And so being completely oblivious about politics and about campaigns and about that whole world, we decided that we're gonna throw our hat in. And so I announced that I was going to run. And I think I'm really glad that I didn't know anything about politics and campaigning at that point, because if I did, I wouldn't do it. One of the judges that I highly respect, that is now a retired judge, told me that I'm going to learn a lot through the campaigning process. I'm going to lose a lot of friends, but I'm also going to make amazing friends. And it's absolutely true. It couldn't have been more on point. She also told me that my opponent would always outspend me. I couldn't, no matter how much money I raised, he would raise more, but I could always outwork him. And I took that to heart too, and I did. And block walking in South Texas in August, September, and October is a special experience. One of those experiences is, so I am block walking and I'm exhausted. It was all day of block walking, and I come to the door, and this particular person opens the door, and I give him the card with my photo where I'm all made up and, you know, looking kind of, you know, judicial. And then I start telling him really quickly about me before he slams the door in my face. You know, you only have about 30 seconds. And so he says, wait a second, this is you? And so I said, yes, this is me after a day of block walking in South Texas. It was interesting. It was, I mean, the rumors that were flying around, that were being spread, I was learning a lot about myself. So one of my favorites was, when you block walk a lot in South Texas, you kind of become darker. Okay. So this pasty girl was becoming much darker. So the rumor was that I was going tanning to appeal to the Hispanic vote. So when my husband heard that rumor, he said, you have to go back to that tanning place because they miss the spots where your shoes are. So that was one of them. Another one was that I was a spy from Russia. I mean, the things that I was learning on a daily basis were fascinating. I wish I would have written them down and sold it and financed my campaign. I didn't do that, unfortunately. So to make a long story short, it was a small group of people that we had helping us. And I see that small group here today, right now. But we prevailed. And I remember, so in 2016, Trump was running the first time. And so the polls were closed at 7 o'clock, and we went to the courthouse to watch the results. And there were two projectors, one local and one national, and we started watching. And after a while, the early votes locally came in, and we were waiting for the boxes to come in for that day's votes. So nothing was changing locally, but the national numbers were coming in. And so people would be saying, oh, Trump is no way going to take this state. And then a few minutes later, they were announcing he took that state. And then they were projecting he's never going to take this state. And a few minutes later, he was taking that state. It was an interesting night. So the early votes, when they came in, I was ahead of my opponent, but I knew that it can switch, you know, it didn't have to stay the same. So I absolutely refused to leave the courthouse. So we kind of camped out until 2 in the morning. That's when the final votes came in. And we won. And I got in the truck, and my husband and I are in the truck. And I turned to him and I said, do you think I'm going to like this job? And he turned and looked at me, and if looks could kill, I'd be dead. And he said, do you think it's a little late for this? So to answer this, I absolutely love my job. Aside from the campaigning part, I absolutely love my job. So in Corpus, we are what's called general jurisdiction court, which means on the same day, in fact, sometimes in the same half day, morning, afternoon, we can do family, civil, and criminal. So I can go from a capital murder case to $1 million contract dispute to a parental termination case, literally within the span of a few minutes. So it's always really interesting to me when somebody says, you know, I'm just not interested in the judicial elections. I only do national presidential elections. National is important. I'm not here to tell you it's not important. But your local elections are literally your everyday life. Who is going to preside over a case when your business partner and you disagree? Is that local judge. Who is going to address the child custody case if you and your spouse end up splitting up? That judge is going to address it. And if you're a witness or a victim or a defendant in a criminal case, it's going to be that judge. So local elections are very important. At this point, not at this point. In this election, I do not have a primary opponent, so I don't have a Republican running against me. I do have a general election opponent, so I'm working hard now. I don't have a slow speed, and my anxiety does not allow me to wait for the general election. So I apologize for all the signs that you see. Thank you. Whether you like them or not, I'm still going to call Luke over there and tell him I got another location and another location. So if you have a location, please give me a location. I'm going to take a location for a small sign, for a large sign, for any sign. I have magnets, t-shirts. When I can't sleep, I shop. I shop for t-shirts, hats, pens, anything else that I can come up with. And in the morning, go to my person and say, hey, I have an idea. So I think my husband is terrified of that expression, but so is my campaign manager and just about everybody else who knows me. I don't take anything for granted. I don't feel I am entitled to anything. I promised in 2015 and 16 that I'm going to be the hardest working judge at the courthouse. I had some competition, and now my husband, who is a judge next door, is trying to give me more competition, but I'm here to tell you that he's wrong. And I get there a little bit earlier than he does, and I don't know why, because we leave at the same time, but I will never take my job for granted. I know that I am a public servant. That's the job that I wanted. That's the job that I hope to earn again with your vote in November. And every day that I walk into the courtroom, it's not my courtroom, it's the people's courtroom. And every time somebody asks me, hey, can I sit in your courtroom? I hope you do, but it's your courtroom. And you should be at the courthouse. You should be watching your public officials at work. They should be at work. And if they're not, find those that will. Any questions so far? I'm happy. I can do this forever. So somebody asked me about what my day is like. What is my typical day like? I think that's one of the parts of my job that I love the most. I don't have a typical day. So yesterday morning, I was able to select a new grand jury. I know the law enforcement knows and the lawyers do, but how about everybody else? Do you know the difference between a grand jury and a regular jury? Okay, so the regular jury, as we call them, is a body of 12 people and maybe some alternates that preside in the case, if it's a criminal case, in the guilt and innocence, and maybe in punishment. So the case is presented to them and then they vote. The grand jury is for the criminal cases where it is just starting and the burden of proof is probable cause, and it's a very low standard. And it's not two sides presenting a case, it's only the assistant district attorney, a prosecutor. And there's usually no witnesses. And it's 12 people from the community, 12 grand jurors. You need at least 9 to vote on any case. And they vote on whether there is enough evidence to move the case forward into the courtroom. And so they return either a true bill or a no bill. If it's a true bill, that means the case is indicted and it goes into the court. And if it's a no bill, that's the end of the case unless the law enforcement agency brings more evidence, a different kind of evidence, and that could revive the case. So yesterday, I was able to select a grand jury. Now, let me tell you about that process. So they have, the district clerk requested 300 people to come so that we could select 12 grand jurors and 4 alternates. 42 people showed up out of the 300. Out of those 42 people, half of them couldn't get in line fast enough to tell me why they couldn't serve. And at one point, it looked like I was not going to be able to actually accomplish my task, because if everybody who requested an excuse would get that excuse, we wouldn't have a grand jury. Now, if you don't have a grand jury, the cases come to a stall. You know, the backup of the cases, which we already have for whatever reasons, I'm not going to say it's all because of COVID, because it's not, but it comes to a stall. Nothing is moving. The victims aren't getting their day in court. The defendants aren't getting their day in court. Justice comes to a stall. Grand jury exists to prevent the government from just prosecuting anybody. It's that step that's given to us by the Constitution to prevent overreach. Although the lawyers will tell you that the grand jury will indict a ham and cheese sandwich. Have you heard that expression? Okay, well, the grand jury is there to prevent the ham and cheese sandwiches from being indicted. And we do have the DA in the room, so he might be able to tell you about cases that do not get indicted by the grand jury. I find out about those rarely when I have a pre-filed case, meaning it hasn't been indicted yet, it hasn't been presented, and then I get notification that that case was no-billed, which means it's going away. But the DA will obviously be much more in control of that knowledge. So yesterday I was able to select the grand jury, and today I presided over an adoption case this morning. And one day, I promise, one day I will do an adoption and not cry. Today was not that day. I don't know if there's anything really more beautiful than that I get to do. I've had some absolutely hardened criminals in the courtroom watching an adoption and crying. Okay? It is so emotional. Every now and then, you just feel that God selected. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I feel like, you know, we can plan all we want, but God is the one that, you know, puts us where we need to be. And so when I walk into the courtroom, and I think that for whatever reason, God thought that I had the qualifications to be the person to enter these people's lives, to make their family legal. I mean, what kind of an awesome job is that? You know, that makes me almost want to go and block walk again, almost. But truly, there hasn't been a day where I haven't thanked God for allowing me to do this. I mean, where I came from, where there were no rights, where there was no process, to being able to preside over the process and making sure that the process happens. Because it's not just about winning or losing or getting what you want. It's about making sure that our forefathers' desires and wishes and that whole thing, Constitution, that it's still there, that the process is followed. My job is never going to be to legislate from the bench. That's way outside of my pay grade. And I don't think I would ever want to do that job. But being this level judge, not just appellate judge, but the trial judge, the judge that the people come to, it is so awesome. I can't think of a better job than that. So I'm going to work hard. I'm going to continue working hard to earn your vote in November to be able to do another 4 years of that job. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. I don't want to waste your time. Thank you all for being here. Nice to meet everybody I haven't met before. Good to see my friends.
Thank you very much, Ina. It's always nice to have you here, and we learn every time you come. So come again, please. So your story about the gossip you hear on the campaign trail reminded me of those that I'm hearing right now. So I thought I should share those with you, because just like you, we learn every day. Our way to campaign, as you know, is twofold. We campaign by endorsing candidates, and we campaign by supporting all the other Republican candidates that are not in contested races. Well, this time I learned that there are two reasons for which we do our endorsement, depending on who talks. One is that we got pressured by somebody, I don't know who, to do our endorsement. The other one is that we got paid by candidates to do our endorsement. So I want to reassure everybody, we did not get pressured and we do not get paid. We just do the work that we think is needed, and we do the endorsement that we think are right. Thank you. And I hope to see you all next week. Next week is number 3 of our candidate forum. It's going to be the congressional candidates. The 3 challengers to the incumbent, Michael Cloud, will be here live. Michael Cloud does not know yet, depending on what's going on in Washington, D.C., and God knows it's not pretty. So he does not know if he'll be there in person or by Zoom or by video. But he'll be there one way or another. And then the week after, we're going to have the candidate forum for the higher courts, so that's the Texas Supreme Court and the Texas Court of Appeal. So I have asked Ina if she would do an introduction to explain everyone what those courts are, what they do, and why they are so important. So I hope to see you all to our 2 next candidate forum. Thank you.